Hello my kitchenettes and welcome to David's Kitchen. I know it's going to be a cold weekend in the Northeast, so I wanted to give you a recipe to make some bread to warm the house up a little bit. We all need that comfort food. One of the challenges though that I know a lot of you folks are having in making bread right now during the pandemic is that you can't get any yeast. So I'm going to share a recipe with you today for an Irish soda bread that I'm going to kind of jazz up a little bit. And guess what? You don't need any yeast. So this hopefully is going to be made with ingredients that you have on hand at home. And I'm going to show you how quickly and easy it is to make. The first thing we're going to do is start out with 4 cups of flour. I'm actually using 2 cups of whole wheat flour and 2 cups of regular flour. To that, I'm adding a teaspoon of salt. I'm adding a tablespoon of regular sugar, and I'm also adding a tablespoon of brown sugar, so you can put that in there. And then we have a teaspoon of baking powder. So we're just going to simply mix this around in this big ceramic bowl. Once again, it's something nostalgic that I have, one of these old-fashioned bowls. It reminds me of my grandma and my mom. You know, they didn't have the KitchenAids that we all have today, so everything that they made, they used in a bowl like this, and it worked out just fine. The next thing we're going to do is what's called cutting in the butter, and we have 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to put that in here, and I'm going to cut that in using a pastry blender. You just basically push it down and keep pushing it down into the butter, and the butter will incorporate with the flour until it's all incorporated and it looks like a mealy kind of mixture. After a few minutes, you'll see that this is all blended in. Just you can see it comes through. And the main point is that there's no big lumps of butter, and all the butter is cut up into these little tiny pieces, and it'll, you know, really infuse as the soda bread bakes. Next, I'm adding about a cup of craisins. You could use raisins. Once again, make it to whatever you want it to be. I'm also adding some walnuts to this. Sorry, Miss Coco Peru, I know you're allergic to walnuts, so you're gonna have to watch Raphael eat this one. Is that vicious or what? In any event, what you do first is just stir in your raisins and your walnuts into the flour, and then last but not least, you're gonna add the buttermilk, 1 beaten egg, and I also like to throw in a teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm putting the vanilla into the buttermilk, pouring this in here, and then pouring in the egg. And you're just gonna mix this rather quickly until everything's incorporated. It's gonna get pretty hard to mix, and eventually we'll have to use our hands to form it a little bit better and get it ready to go into the pans. Now you see how this has just barely been incorporated. I love the descriptions that people use for this stage. They call it shaggy, just loosely blended. The point is you don't want to blend it to death, otherwise it will come out very dense instead of flaky, which is a nice way that you want to have it. So at this point, I'm just kind of tossing it in this bowl a little bit to kind of fully incorporate everything. I can tell it's sticking a lot to my hands, so you could probably put in up to a whole nother ½ cup of flour. And I just added a little bit more flour, mixing that in, and I can tell just that little bit made a big difference. So it's almost ready to come out. Here I am just kind of pushing it together. Last but not least, I'm going to put it on this floured board, spread this around a little bit, take the dough out. Now, just going to kind of shape it a little bit. You could make just one real big one. I tend to think it takes a really long time to cook when you do that, so I'm using my pastry cutter, and I'm simply just going to cut this into 2. And then I'm going to just sort of flip it on the bottom side here, pat this down, and there you go. We have one. I'm using these sturdy pie tins because as this expands a little bit, it'll kind of hit to the sides of the pie tins and create the shape. Okay. So it's kind of breaking apart a little bit, but that's the point. As it bakes, the butter will melt into the dough and it will be awesome. And then last but not least, I'm just going to score the top of these, make a nice little X. And that just gives it a little bit of a decoration as it puffs up and bakes. We're going to put this in the oven at about 400 degrees for about 30 minutes, and we'll take a look at it and see how it is. All right, so it's just about time. Oh, there's my favorite sound. Time to take the soda breads out of the oven. Cut this off. Oh wow, they look perfect. And I'm going to take both of these out. All right, I got them on my cooling tray here, and they'll cool for about 30 minutes or so. They're really good when you eat it warm. It's always best to make this in the morning so that you can have it with breakfast with some nice butter on it. I'm making it late in the day today, so we'll have it for breakfast tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this video on Irish soda bread. I hope you try it for yourself. Get some comfort out of it during these tough times. And for God's sakes, wash your hands. Ciao.